In November of 2018, I got an email from our friend and concert promoter in Germany. The subject line just said, "Hanover is calling." The body of the email said, "I'm wondering whether you have plans to come to Germany in 2019. Don't miss our stage. All the best, Rainer." That email from Rainer was the little spark of an idea, and it kicked off this entire tour. This is the story of our 30-day, 13-concert, 5 Christmas market, 3 country, and 1 Mom Along for the Adventure tour. On our previous music tours in Europe, we've been really fortunate to not only make musical connections, but true friends. So a lot of this tour felt like a reunion of sorts, and it started on day 1, fresh off the airplane. Not so fresh, actually, now that I think about it, but upon landing in Frankfurt, getting our rental car sorted out, we went straight to our friends Dietmar and Karen's home, and they surprised us with a really lovely German breakfast. When Jeb and I tour in the United States, we pretty much split the driving 50-50, but Jeb drove the entire tour. And he navigated the Autobahn like a pro. And my mom, she tried to help navigate, but when I peeked over her shoulder, I realized that she was using a map of Germany from the 1970s, as in it still had the wall on this map because it was so old. So we found my mom a new map, and let's be honest, we used our GPS most of the time anyway. My mom and dad lived in Germany when they were newly married, and one of our main objectives for this trip was to retrace their steps. So we used our home's investigative skills to try and find the apartments they used to live in. And our search started here in a pub over sausage, schnitzel, and beer. The pub was packed, so a local, Gerhard, invited us to share his table. He didn't speak much English, and our German was rusty. Okay, non-existent actually. So this really nice waitress helped translate my mom's story and explanation of the place where she used to live with my dad. And one after dinner drink later, we had enough information to take a drive, and guess what? We actually found one of my parents' apartments. It was so exciting. The sightseeing in Nuremberg was nostalgic for my mom, of course, since she lived there. But many of the sights felt really familiar to me as well, because I literally grew up with paintings and photos of these places that we were visiting, the cathedrals and such. They were on our walls as a kid. They were a part of my life. Our first Christmas market of the trip. Oh my goodness, I didn't even know what I had been missing out on my whole life, and why are these not a thing in America? Stall after stall of food, brats, sausages, crepes, Lebkuchen, holiday decorations, and let's not forget the Glühwein. While in Nuremberg, we also visited the Nazi Party rally grounds and Courtroom 600. I took this photo as we were leaving the documentation center. I wanted to remember that moment in time and how the 3 of us were feeling that day. So I know you're just looking at a pair of boots and some leaves, but this photo represents so much more than I can even try to put into words.
Hello, hi Mom. Hi. Can you tell me one more time why that trip to the Czech border was so important for you?
Yes, because that's where the barrier system was. The concrete wall and barbed wire and killer dogs and guard towers. That was so close to the Cold War. I mean, that was the Cold War, Danika. And Dad's mission, he was with the 84th Engineer Company that was attached to the 2nd Armored Cavalry Division. And their mission was to guard that east-west border.
Next, we found ourselves in the town of Rothenburg in Bavaria. And Rothenburg is known for its well-preserved medieval old town, and it's a very, very popular spot for tourists. By this time, you might be wondering if we actually did play any concerts while we were abroad, because so far it just probably looks like a giant vacation to you. And it's true, our first 9 days were spent entirely as tourists. This was a bucket list trip for my mom, so we intentionally tacked on the time to the beginning of the tour to make sure we got to everything. So starting in the Netherlands, we had a 3-day-in-a-row concert run. On this tour, we played in a variety of locations, homes, theaters, a pub, and even a school. No matter where Jeb and I are on our tours and adventures, a significant amount of our time is spent on the road traveling from place to place. So it's totally worth mentioning that the food at gas stations along the roads in Europe is truly gourmet compared to what we're used to back home. Our purpose in heading to Normandy, France was to visit the D-Day beaches. But of course we needed a place to stay while we're there, and we ended up in a lovely Airbnb in a little seaside town called PORT-EN-BESSIN. Definitely not saying that correctly, but I'm trying. Oh look! I've interrupted this lovely seascape view for a photo of vanilla-scented toilet paper. I'll let you go back to the sea video while I tell you this story though. At the time we're making this mini documentary, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier this year, for reasons I still don't get, there was a major rush on toilet paper and there was a shortage here in the United States. And it was actually pretty hard to find it. So when the shortage was happening, I got a text message from my mom saying, and I quote, "Good thing I brought that vanilla-scented toilet paper back with me from France. Who knew it would come in so handy?" So come to find out, she used the toilet paper that I bought in France to pack her breakable items in on the flight home. It was padding, basically. And yes, I bought it. It was vanilla-scented. I had questions that needed answers, so don't judge me.
It was surreal to me. It was like something I've always heard of and seen in movies, and then we were there. And to be the only people on the beach, it was so significant. When our troops stormed that beach, they didn't storm it to conquer the land or the people. They stormed that beach to set some people free. And then I thought it was really significant that France donated that ground so that those people who lost their lives there could be buried there, you know.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Yep, you are so welcome, Danika. So I love you.
I love you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Guess what? It's time for another 3 concerts. Yay! And of course, we snuck in another Christmas market. Tour, things can go wrong. Vehicles have problems, traffic can lead to delays, and sometimes, as in this time, something goes wrong with an instrument. The electronics on Jeb's guitar were malfunctioning. Ugh. To put this in perspective, if something goes wrong with Jeb's guitar, that's the equivalent of me losing my voice. Here's where we got really lucky though. The night before, we just played a concert at Dietmar and Karen's house. Remember them? They were our first stop after the airport. Dietmar told us about a music center called THOMANN, and we were within an hour of it. So the good people at THOMANN had Jeb's guitar fixed, and we were on our way by the end of the day. Y'all, that is luck. So many things could have gone worse in that scenario. Now, our time with my mom was coming to an end, and our last stop together was Bamberg.
That was the first city that we explored, the first German area that we became acquainted with and that we fell in love with.
Check out the street art on this bridge right here. Maybe I'm reaching, but the guy on the right looks like my dad to me. We lost my dad in 2005. So throughout the trip, whenever we went into a cathedral, we would light a candle for him. In talking to my mom on the phone about the tour, I asked if she had any final thoughts.
So fun. It was so fun to get to know the German people and the people of the Netherlands and the French people. I loved it, and I was so impressed how warm and welcoming all the people were, every home we went into.
I have a confession to make. I recorded these calls with my mom without her knowing it. Eventually, I did fess up about the recordings, and I was happy we got this last little video of her actually in Bamberg the day before she flew home.
My heart's filled with love and just appreciation, and I feel like I've accomplished something very important in my life, and thank you for making it possible. Cut.
Aw, bye Mom. But first, let's have one more Glühwein. Alright, we are in the home stretch of the tour now. We have 7 days left and 7 concerts. Word of mouth is everything to us. A few years ago, we played a concert at the home of Rick and Karen. At that concert, we met John, and in talking with John, he told us that he had a cousin whose stepson, Ollie, ran a music venue in Bavaria and that we should look them up on our next European tour. So we did. And that's how we ended up playing a concert in this super vibey old chapel turned music venue. I repeat, word of mouth is everything to us. Speaking of word of mouth, this show was at Dietmar's brother and sister-in-law's home. Henning and his wife Amy are in a band and they opened the show with a few songs. It was super cool. The next morning, we all went to a Christmas market together and did lots more Christmas markety things. The morning after this show, I woke up with a sore throat. And we still had 5 more shows to play, so I was trying my hardest to remain calm, but internally, panic was setting in. As we were sitting in Doris and Stefan's living room practicing our Christmas songs, Doris walked over and handed me a bottle of throat drops. She could just tell I was struggling, and I thought it was a really kind gesture. And the drops worked like a charm because I was feeling much better by the afternoon. By the way, the saying on this mirror in their home means I can do it. It was exactly what I needed to see in that moment. The email from the beginning? Well, this is him. This is Reiner. In fact, I might even be sitting there on the edge of the stage telling him the story about how his email was the spark that kicked off this tour. Every tour we've played in Germany, the last concert of the tour, we play in the home of Angelika and Michael. We play the show 100% unplugged and acoustic, and it's pure magic. And when the last guest leaves for the evening, Jeb and I retreat to our room and try and figure out how in the world we are going to fit everything back in the suitcases we arrived with. The next morning, and I mean early in the morning, Angelika always lays out a full breakfast spread for us, and Michael always checks the traffic from their home to the airport, let us know if there's any problems we need to be aware of. We wave goodbye, and just like that, it's over, and we're back at the Frankfurt airport waiting to catch our flight back home. You may have noticed that I didn't spend a lot of time talking about the actual concerts we played on this tour. There's a couple of reasons for this. When Jeb and I play a concert, we try our hardest to be 100% present and in the moment. The most important concert we played on this tour is the concert we played on that day. And when that concert is over, the most important show is the one happening next. Lastly, it's hard to explain the feeling that happens when you can tell you've made a connection with an audience. I don't know how to tell you about the looks I see on people's faces when they watch Jeb pour his soul into a guitar solo. But my hunch is that you've experienced the power of live music yourself, and it's not too much to presume that you just get it. You understand what can happen when an artist is pouring their heart out and the lyrics and music hit you in just the right way. How can I do justice in trying to explain that feeling? I can't. But I was pretty sure I could tell a story about the rest of the tour, so that's what I did. Thanks for coming along.